What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and first official review of the Chelsea preseason. Obviously, this is not their very first preseason game. There was one against Fulham a few days ago, but that one was not shown anywhere. They only showed like the highlights and the goals and everything. But this one against Arsenal, much more organized. It's set in Beijing, and the subs are kind of limited. Like, you can't sub people back in. You can only make the subs off the bench. The one against Fulham, they were subbing, like, I think the three main defenders they subbed in and out. So that one was much more, I think, casual and laid back, not really an organized thing. Whereas this is obviously something they organized to expand, get to the fans over in Beijing and now Singapore after this. So this one is, I'm going to call it the first official preseason game, and it's against Arsenal, and we won 3-0. It was a great game overall. But one of the best things about it, I think, has to be watching the team perform on a very high level. And this is something that you could kind of get a sense of watching some of the highlights against Fulham. 8-2 victory is a big deal. Even if it is preseason, even if it's against Fulham who are in the championship, winning 8-2 in preseason is like, that's something that doesn't normally happen whenever it's Premier League team facing like a championship team. I don't know. Maybe it does more than I know, but that's not something I've ever seen us do in a preseason game. Go up against a team that's lesser than us, the team that we really should be beating easily, and then just destroy them in the preseason. So it's a great way to kick it all off. Good confidence booster as well. You get 8 goals. You give up 2, which is disappointing, but still, you just kind of run over this team. And now you travel to Beijing and you beat Arsenal 3-0. Fairly easily, too. I mean, they did have a few chances here and there, but for the most part, we dominated the game. We were the ones taking it to them. We were the ones with the very dangerous chances, the ones that were eking by the post, where most of their chances were either comfortable saves for the keeper or it's a good 2 or 3 feet wide. So, I don't know, just watching, we look so much better than I think we did the last time we won the league. And some of you guys probably remember that. I remember it very clearly, watching some of those games and just being so frustrated by some of them. Just because they didn't look ready. They didn't look like they were coming back and they had just been working so hard in preseason and they were ready to go for the season. It looked like they were out of shape. It looked like they weren't really ready to play. And on top of that, transfer window-wise, the players that we brought in, they didn't look all that convincing when we were watching them. So I just compare that season, compare the season after Mourinho won the title to this season after Conte wins the title. This team looks so much more in shape. They look more disciplined. They just look ready for the season. And that's something that I think Conte's done so well. He comes in and he implements his style, and the players listen. And I love that about him. So, first of all, let's talk about the lineup, because this is the lineup that he's gone with 2 times in a row. He went with it against Fulham, except Courtois didn't play that game. But in this game, it was Courtois in goal, and then it was the same back line, Alonso and Moses on the wing backs with Cahill, David Luiz, Spilicueta, Conte and Fabregas in the middle because Matic were looking like we're probably going to sell him. And then Pedro and William because Hazard's injured. And then Batshuayi up top because Costa looking like we're going to sell him and Morata's not in yet. So this is the lineup he's gone with twice in a row. And it looks like a great lineup. I mean, everybody's working well together. It's looking very much like last season, how the team clicked. Players were doing things. Conte was freeing up space for the people up top, so they didn't really have to work back and defend a whole lot. And he'd win the ball in such great situations that it opens up space for them because now we're on the counterattack. And everybody does their job to perfection. Everybody does what they're supposed to do, and we win the game. So I just really like to see that early on Conte is saying we're keeping things similar to last season. There may be some changes as soon as some of these signings come in. Don't know how exactly going to fit in, how we're going to put them in with the rest of the team, but I mean, just looking at what we've got right now, it looks solid. It looks like they're picking up right where they left off from last season. And individually, I mean, a lot of them are either where they were at the end of last season, which most of them were in a good situation, or they've gotten better. I didn't see anybody out there who's dropped off at all. It's mainly just they're either picking up where they left off or they look a lot better than they did at the end of last season, and that's promising. So, first of all, let's talk about the goals. The first one, really brilliant goal from Willian. Just nice little move, opens up a bit of space for himself, and then curls it towards the back post. Batshuayi's kind of similar thing, finds a little bit of space for himself, curls it left-footed to the other post. Nothing Espina could do on either of those. I think that's the best thing about pretty much even the third one. Great ball from Alonso. Batshuayi just blasts it into the top. That's what I love about these 3 goals, though, is that sometimes you watch the goal. Like, there were a few goals against Fulham that I'm like, wow, the keeper really should have done better there. I'm watching these goals, I'm like, those are just quality goals, all 3 of them. Defensive mistakes, a couple. The Oxlade-Chamberlain losing his feeding on the 3rd goal, and I think there was a giveaway that led to Willian's goal. So there were some defensive mistakes that did lead to the build-up play that led to the goal. But as far as the shots were concerned, they were really good shots. Nothing really the keeper could do about it. There were no keeper mistakes that just let, some stupid shot in. So, I don't know. I love the fact that we score quality goals even in preseason. It's really promising leading into the season. So, now we're going to talk individual performances. This one gets a little bit tougher because it really is hard in a preseason game, especially, to judge individually, especially when everybody gets subbed off. Because I had to write down all the subs on the piece of paper because I had to keep it in track, who got subbed when, where do people go, where do they get subbed onto. So it's really hard to judge individually whenever it comes to preseason, but I'm going to do my best. So, first of all, start off with Courtois on goal. In my opinion, didn't really have a whole lot to do, but he did have to make a couple of good saves. And I think that it makes it even harder as a keeper whenever you're really not having to do much. The other team's not challenging you that much because your defense is doing a good job. But then all of a sudden, whether it's a lapse of defending or whether your defender gives away the ball, and all of a sudden shot comes in and now you have to be aware. That's hard to do. I can tell you personally as a keeper trainer, that's something that you always tell your keepers is always be aware. Even when you haven't done anything, even when you're just standing there for like 20 to 15 minutes, all of a sudden you could have a shot at any time taken on you. So always be ready, and he was. Caballero came in the second half to replace him, and in my opinion, he did well. He didn't really have much to do either, but I like the commanding presence he has back there. There were a couple moments later on in the game where he's talking to his defense a lot. He's trying to move them around. And that's something that you want to see, especially from your backup keeper, and something that I never really saw Begovic do that much. He may have, but I never noticed it. With Caballero, I noticed he's out there trying to command the defense. Begovic never seemed like he was that much in control of the defense, and so things always looked kind of sloppy when Begovic was in goal. So I'm really hoping with Caballero in, obviously probably won't get a whole lot of games unless something happens to Courtois, knock on wood. But it's so nice to know that if he is called upon for whatever reason, if Courtois is not available or if we just want to give him a rest, it's nice to know that Caballero looks like he is fully capable of handling any challenge thrown at him. So, really good to see from him. As far as the back line goes, like I said, Azpilicueta, David Luiz, Cahill, same as last year. I will say of the 3 tonight, David Luiz looked the best, and he's one of the few players on the field that I think stepped it up from the end of last season. If you guys watched my reviews from last season, you know that he was one of the players that started off very well, but by the end of the season, I thought he dropped off. I thought he got back into his same old, I'm going to chase down balls in the middle of the field, I'm going to get pulled out of position, I'm going to do stupid stuff on the ball, try to dribble out of the back and lead to dangerous situations. He kind of went back into those old habits. So to see him tonight, he did do that maybe 2 or 3 times. But that's better than the end of last season where it was like happening 2 or 3 times maybe every half. So, yeah, I thought overall tonight he looked very solid. He was very good physically. and he was very aware of most situations. The only problem I will say, though, is that I think in the first half he was overall extremely solid. Never really got beat. Second half, though, things did get a little bit more dicey, but mainly with the whole back line in general. And this is something I want to talk about with the back line. In the first half, you could tell Arsenal were playing pretty much like a front three, with Lacazette in the middle and almost like Ramsey and Ozil. No, more like Ozil and Iwobi playing in behind him. So with those 3 versus 3 on our defense, it almost matched up perfectly. And I think that's why we were so just dominant in the first half, and they hardly got any chances unless we made a mistake, because our defense was so perfectly matched up to defend how they were lining up. Second half, they went with 2 strikers, and that's where we started to find some problems. That's where I think David Luiz lost track of his man more, because at that point, you got 3 defenders for 2 players, and at that point, somebody needs to communicate. And this kind of falls a bit more on Cahill, because he's supposed to be the one communicating. He's supposed to be the leader back there, organizing the other 2. But, I mean, watching, nobody was really communicating. Nobody was organizing that. And so, all of a sudden, Giroud just goes in between Azpilicueta and David Luiz, and he's in space because neither one of them know, oh, are you going to get him? I don't know, are you going to get him? And all of a sudden, he's in space, and luckily didn't get a touch on the cross that came in. But that's where we start to get more dangerous. Whenever there are less players up there than we have defenders, well, who's going to be the free man? Because it seems like whenever that happens, everybody wants to be the free man. So it's kind of a critique on the defense as a whole, but I do think that's where he loses focus. Whenever he doesn't have a specific job to do, he kind of loses focus, loses track of his man, and that's where it can become very dangerous. Azpilicueta, in my opinion, not a good night for him. I don't think he's dropped off by any stretch of the imagination. He still showed several times tonight that he's still that consistent defender who always puts in a good challenge, always slows him down. But his passing did look a bit off tonight. There were a few times where he did lose track of his man, where most of the time he's aware that he's there. So overall, I think it was disappointing by his standards, but I do not think that he's come in like out of shape or come in, I guess, less than last season. I do think it was just kind of a blip tonight. One of those things where he probably just didn't do well on the surface because, overall, I would say it was an average game. But for him, I'd say that's a poor showing because I expect more than average for him. But overall, I'd say the big thing for him is just work on that passing a bit more because he did give away a couple very dangerous passes in the first half. Second half, he got a bit better. But we can't have those moments, especially when we get into the season. That can't happen. So I'd say, just something easy to work on. Probably something that he just couple of mental lapses in the first half, first game back, something that can easily be fixed. But then you get to the final defender, Cahill, and in my opinion, he's picking up right where he left off at the end of last season, but I thought he was very disappointing at the end of the last season, and honestly for most of the second half of last season, because I get so frustrated to watch him give away the ball, to watch him be pulled out of position, to watch him dive into challenges. He's just such a sloppy defender to watch at times, and not every single time. It's not something where every single time I'm just like, oh, why is he out there? But there are more times than anybody else on the field that I can think of where I'm just like, why is he out there? He's just giving away the ball so easily. It should just be a simple pass to somebody, and he passes it right to the other team. I think one of the best examples I can think of is Azpilicueta just gave away the ball to, I think, Iwobi. And now he's in the middle of the field. David Luiz has stepped out to cover him. Azpilicueta is marking, I think it was Lacazette making a run on the left side, Arsenal's left side. So Azpilicueta is now tracking that run. Cahill has Ozil on the right side. And yet he still gets pulled inside. And my frustration with this is that happened so many times last year. It was the biggest complaint I had with him all season long was somebody's in the middle, David Luiz has stepped to him, he's got the ball, Cahill, you watch the man. And I get one of the defenders' things is you want to drop in and cover, But here's the thing, if the guy gets past David Luiz, Courtois is right there. So if he gets past him, now Courtois steps out, it's a one-on-one with Courtois, and now it's up to him. David Luiz should not be letting him get past him. He shouldn't be diving in. You should be in a situation where, yes, you can cover if David Luiz forces him to you, but also be close enough to where now whenever that pass goes out to Ozil, you're not 10, 15 feet away from him because you stepped all the way to the middle. But it happens so many times. He just gets dragged out of position, leaves one guy open on the far side, and it led to their best chance in the first half. Luckily, Ramsey wasn't able to get enough of a touch off of Ozil's pass, but that happens way too many times. And when you continue to make the same mistake over and over and over again, it makes me wonder why nobody's talking to him. Why hasn't he figured this out? Why does he continue to make the same mistake over and over and over again, and nothing changes? It's so frustrating to watch. So that's it for the starting back line. By the end of the game, it was late on in the second half, the changes were made, and it ended with Christensen in the middle, Clarke-Salter on the left, and Collis on the right. And for the most part, they looked solid. They didn't look great. There were a few nervy moments where it's like, okay, guys, let's sort it out. Somebody needs to take charge, preferably Christensen, because I want to say he's the oldest of those three. I'm pretty sure Clarke-Salter's like 18 or 19. I want to say he's 23 or 24, and I think Collis is like 22 or 23. So, it's still a young back line, but there were a couple that are older than I think Clarke-Salter is. And so at that point, you want them to be stepping up and taking charge, but it didn't really look like anybody was. And thankfully, Caballero was kind of the one stepping up and trying to take charge back there. But I don't know, just watching them, they look like they're working hard. They look like they're pretty good players. But you can see the youth is part of the problem. They're stepping into challenges they shouldn't be stepping into. They're getting beat, giving away silly free kicks near the top of the box, which, to be fair, the first team did too. So just watching them play, they're solid, but they're not great. And so you want to kind of mold them, and hopefully in the next couple of games, Conte will look to sort of intertwine a couple of those players. Maybe bring in Christensen and Collis alongside Azpilicueta, or one of them in with Azpilicueta and Cahill, or Azpilicueta and David Luiz. Just integrate them into a back line with a couple of the first team players, so that way we can kind of judge where they are compared to those other players. Instead of, we have an entirely new back line, how can we judge when there's no real sort of benchmark to look at? How do I compare them when they're not on the field together? Now, that being said, I also understand that you don't want to switch up your back line. You don't want players who probably aren't going to be playing together to play with somebody completely different. So I do get that part as well, but it's just a little thing that I kind of want Conte to try out, just because I do want to judge them based on some of the first team players and see how they compare. So that's it for the back line. The wing backs started off with Alonso and Moses. Alonso is another one that, in my opinion, really stepped it up from last season. One of my biggest complaints about him was he was slow. The other biggest complaint about him was his crosses and passing were just terrible. He always hitting the cross at the worst time when nobody's in the box. It was to pretty much a nothing area where nobody's going to get to it. And his passes at times could be kind of sporadic. You never really knew what to expect for him. Tonight really showed that he's worked on it. His speed has improved quite a bit. I mean, he was up against Oxlade-Chamberlain, and we know he's not slow. So the fact that Alonso was able to get up and back really shut him down for most of the night, it's really impressive. I mean, I was really, really impressed with Alonso as far as his defending goes, and then his passing really improved. His crossing, I didn't really see a whole lot of. That one cutback for Batshuayi's second goal was really good. But I never really saw him hit any crosses in that I'm just like, that's a really good cross. So maybe he still needs to work on that. Maybe I'll see more of that in the next game. But really impressed me tonight. Really stepped it up from last season. Hopefully can continue in that vein, because we haven't really gone and gotten another wing back. So still don't know what we're going to do there whenever one of these two get hurt. But on to Moses on the other side. Pretty much one of the players that picked up from last season right where he left off, but in my opinion, that's a good thing because he was really good at the end of last season. He was one of the players that continually impressed throughout the entire length of last season for me, in my opinion, and just continue to play exactly how I expect him to. That quick darting run in, that quick I'm going to poke the ball away. Just a lot of speed, a lot of skill to win the ball whenever a player's not expecting it. They're thinking they're holding him off, and all of a sudden he just kind of nips around and pokes it away. So he's very clever with his defending just because he's not that strong. And then on top of that, a lot of speed going forward. He's always looking to kind of attack and just go, go, go. He's not one of those players that's going to stop and say, all right, what should I do now? He's just always got an idea of, I'm going to go forward. Even if it doesn't always work out, he's looking to attack, and that's always something you want to see. The only thing, though, like I said, he's not that strong, and it still shows. He still doesn't have the upper body strength, or even kind of the lower body strength, too. Whenever somebody puts in a challenge on him, he either is able to hold it off for a little bit, but then loses it eventually because his passes afterwards isn't great, or they just knock him off a bit and he doesn't have it anymore. So I would just say, either work on being strong enough to at least hold up the ball and then make a good decision after that instead of just whacking it, or he needs to get into the weight room and really start working out so he's able to hold off any sort of challenge. He's able to hold up possession even when a strong challenge does come in. But, still really good performance from him tonight. Still really impressed by him. And then in the second half, the two players that come on for them were Kennedy on the left and then Tomori on the right. I was kind of surprised to see Tomori playing wingback just because I mainly see him play center back for the youth squad. Kennedy is one, though, that, in my opinion, I've wanted him to get a shot. I've wanted him to try to break into the first team, see what he can do. He played fullback under Mourinho a few games, so he has shown that he can defend to some extent. And on top of that, he's got a lot of speed, a good bit of skill as well on the ball. So I've wanted to see him get his chance for so long. Came on tonight, and in my opinion, didn't do enough to convince me. And I really am disappointed by that. Not that I think he's a terrible player now, and I don't think he can cut it, but I think he disappointed himself tonight by not going out and really doing everything he could to sort of force his way into the team. There are a couple players that came out there who haven't really been a part of the first team, who have either gotten a few chances here and there or never really had a chance, have been out on loan for so long. They came out tonight with a point to prove, and in my opinion, a couple of them did, but Kennedy's not one of those. I think he really he lacks, I don't think he lacks something. I think tonight, though, he tried to do too much at times, and it didn't work out. He tried to do some creative stuff. He tried to overcompensate for, I guess, the fact that he hasn't really gotten a first-team chance, and it didn't cut it. His passes weren't coming off. Defensively was okay at times, but, you want to see him really affecting something from the wing, and in my opinion, didn't do enough. Didn't create enough from the wing to really cement any sort of position out there on the field. Tomori, on the other hand, looked good. Had that one great chance that Fabregas set him up on. Didn't finish it, but still great run, great touch to take him in behind. And defensively, he's already shown that he's solid defensively. But, he looks strong. He looks big for his age, too. I'm pretty sure he's still a teenager. I want to say he's like 18 or 19. So the fact that he's young and he's showing that he's capable of holding it out there with, some of the, obviously not Arsenal's A team, but he was handling his own out there, even when some of the players around him for Chelsea were struggling a little bit. He was one of the players on the B team that came in the second half that really looked like he belonged out there, looked like he knew what he was doing, looked like he knew what Conte wanted him to do. So, I don't know, I was really impressed with him overall. I think he's still got a little bit of ways to go, mainly in his passing. I didn't see a lot of great passes from him. A couple of them were good, but then some of them were giveaways. So I think just overall, his passing, his quick movement, 1-2s with players, probably could use some work. Part of that could also be because he was out there with some other players that aren't as good as the players in the first team. So it would be interesting to see him get more time out there with players like Conte and Fabregas and even Willian and Pedro up top. But from what saw from him, I was impressed. So hopefully he can continue to impress if he gets more time going forward. And then in the middle, Fabregas and Conte, like I said before, both of them great games. I mean, Conte went out there, did exactly what you expect him to do. Quick, winning balls, intercepting in dangerous positions, playing passes that set up great counterattacks, and just all around the workhorse for the team again. And I love watching him play because of that. I love to watch him work so hard for the team because he creates so much just from that work alone. He doesn't have to play these great balls. He doesn't have to, have this great shot. He doesn't have to do all of this stuff. He just has to work hard and win the ball back. And from that, he creates so many chances. But yeah, I love watching him play. He looks like he's exactly where he was at the end of last season. And honestly, I can't think of much more he can do aside from, if he were able to shoot, that would be the best player in the world. But I don't, like I said, he doesn't have to be a great shooter because all he needs to do is just win and then play it off to players who are great shooters, and there you go. You got yourself a goal. Fabregas also had a great game. Looked very quick on the ball, looked very intelligent as always. In my opinion, if he continues playing like he did tonight and some of what I saw playing against Fulham as well, I don't see any reason why he should be riding the bench again this season. I know Bakayoko is a big signing. He's somebody that Conte wanted and wants to bring into the team, but I mean, watching Fabregas play, all I can think is, how can you not put him out there? How can you not play him? Because he's creating so much. He's just got a vision and an ability that hardly anybody else has that I've seen. Some of his passes, the one to Mori that set up his chance, I've played a ball like that before, but I never mean to do it. Every single time I try to play this ball, it's because I'm trying to cross it. I'm left-footed. I try to cross it and curl it in, towards somebody from the left side, but I mishit it, and so it curls away, away from the player, but somehow will curl towards the back post, and I've done it like twice, and I didn't mean to at all. It was purely luck. Fabregas, he sees Tomori making the run, and just somehow pulls that off to perfection, right on his foot. Tomori takes a great touch to set himself up for the shot, but, I mean, the pass was just inch perfect, and it's like, I can't do that if I only do that if I don't want to. And you just do it so easily. It makes me jealous. But, I mean, that pass was obviously the best of the night, but so many more were brilliant passes. The one to Alonso that set up Batshuayi's second goal was brilliant. So many over the top, just finding players, putting themselves in dangerous positions to where even though, they're not winning it, it's still a dangerous ball that's forcing the defenders now to have to work hard to keep that from being a dangerous ball. And so now it's wearing them out a little bit. In my opinion, he's such a solid player out there. I don't want to see him sit the bench again. I do not want to see him have to ride the bench. And, obviously with all these games going on, he probably will be getting a lot of game time, even if it's not all in the league. But I think he deserves more time than he got last season, for sure. And then the two that came on for them were Kyle Scott and Mario Pasalic. Pasalic is one I know because on FIFA he's one of the better, young players on Chelsea. He's always on loan every time I start the game. As manager of Chelsea, he's always on loan and always comes back, and I'm always using him whenever he comes back because on FIFA he's good. And so I'm just like, maybe he is. I don't know. I haven't seen enough of him, but tonight he was one of the later subs in the 75th minute, so I don't know. I didn't get to see a whole lot of him. He looked okay. Didn't really make any mistakes. Passing looked solid. Defense looked pretty solid. So hopefully he does get a bit more of a chance this season because if he can do it, let's see it. I'm pretty sure he's played for Milan the past couple seasons on loan, so I'd love to see what he's got. Hopefully we can see more of him in the preseason, but as far as Kyle Scott goes, definitely looked younger. The only reason I know who he is because I watched most of the youth team games last season. He definitely stands out with his mullet. But watching him tonight, he looked a bit slower than everybody else. He looked a bit weaker than everybody else. He's not one of our best youth players, I don't think. Just watching our youth team as a whole, he's he's pretty solid in the midfield, but I think we've got better players on the team than him. And tonight, he just didn't look like he really fit in out there. He looked like he was just a little bit off pace from everybody else. So I don't know. He wasn't terrible. He wasn't like our worst. Well, he might have been our worst player on the pitch. But he wasn't like bad. He wasn't a terrible player. He just didn't look like he was the same quality as a lot of the other players that we had out there. So kind of disappointing for him, but hopefully he can work, and hopefully getting some time out there amongst some of these other players that have been playing at other clubs, at top level clubs. Hopefully that can help him grow as a player, because I'd love to see him get better. And then the front three, Pedro, Willian, and Batshuayi started off. Pedro, talk about first, because obviously he was the first one to come out. From what I saw from him, he looks like he's back to where he was at the end of last season. Good footwork, good speed, good effort to win the ball back, but kind of just selfish at times. Moments where he should be laying it off and he's trying to dribble. Moments where he should be trying to cross it and instead he's going for a shot. Of course, that only happened like once, I think. But yeah, just, I don't know. He still has that thing about him that I'm just like, I get frustrated with him because he'll lose the ball 2 or 3 times within a couple minutes. And I get frustrated with that. I really get frustrated whenever any player loses the ball like that. But he constantly does it, and it feels like he makes a mistake and loses it and then tries it again and loses it again. And I get really frustrated because you've already lost it once. Let's not do it again. But to be fair, one of the things he really does bring is he brings a lot of energy. I think between him and Willian had the better game tonight, but that's not for lack of energy. I just think that his energy is more focused on whenever a team is looking to, I guess, pack it in, and then they win it off of us, whether it's, we've tried to work it around and then we've lost it. Pedro is very good at as soon as we lose it, he's always there putting pressure on the defender so they can't counter on us. And Conte obviously does that very well too, but Pedro's the one that does it on the defense. He's always the one in front that's putting pressure on the defense whenever they win it back. But he does work much better whenever a defense is packed it in because he's got the quicker feet than Willian. He knows where to play the ball, very intelligently, more than Willian. And on top of that, sometimes he can pull up just a worldie of a strike that finds the top corner out of nowhere. And Willian has done that 1 or 2 times, but I expect Pedro to do it more often just because he can strike a ball really well. But unfortunately, it also leads to a lot of frustration whenever he misses. But tonight, like I said, Willian had the better game mainly because it was a game set up for him. He is a much more counterattacking focused player, and we counterattacked quite a bit. Arsenal looking to press high as well. Put pressure on our back line. You get the ball to Willian, he's got so much speed, he just turns it on, takes off, and now he's back in behind the defense. So, yeah, I love watching him play whenever we get in one of those situations, whenever we're against the top teams. I love it whenever he gets in because I know he's going to get a few chances. I know he's going to put pressure on him because we counterattack so quickly with him. And, yeah, I love the fact that we've got a player for either situation, whether a team is bunkered in or whether they're looking to press us high and we can hit them on the counter. Pedro is good on one, Willian's good on the other. Tonight was more Willian's game, and so that's why he looked the better of the two. But both of them looked pretty solid. Pedro obviously taking the hit from Espina and having to go out. I don't think it was that bad. According to Twitter, they said, he's fine. He said he's fine. So probably be back in for the Bayern Munich game, but it is something to look at where maybe this is a chance for somebody else to step in and see what they can do. Boga stepped in, I thought did pretty well, but talking about him in a second. Last one is obviously Batshuayi, really trying to hammer down that he wants to get into that first team striker role, and I love it. I love the fact that he's so intent on really pushing Conte and saying, hey, look at me, I'm here to play. I am ready to play. And that's something that he's shown, I think, in these first... Honestly, at the end of last season, I think he showed it. With the goals that he scored, the moments that he popped up and got himself a goal, and now he scored 4 in the first 2 games of preseason. I think he's showing that I'm ready. Coach, I'm ready. Put me in. I'm ready to play. And obviously with Murata coming in, it is something where How is he going to fit into the system? Is he going to be another backup again? Is he going to play the cup games where Murata's playing the league games? How is it going to work? I don't know, but if Batshuayi continues to perform like this, I imagine there's going to be a lot of competition for the spot, and that can only mean good things. I mean, one of the worst things about, I want to say it was like 3 or 4 years ago, I can't remember exactly what year it was now, but Torres was like the only striker we had. The next one was like, I think it was Ba or Remy or something like that. We did not have a backup after Torres. We had given the other two strikers a chance. They weren't really cutting it, and so it's just so scary to think Torres isn't cutting it. Who are we going to turn to? Nobody was really pulling it off. Nobody was doing what we needed them to do up there. So the fact that we've got Batshuayi who can score, and then Murata's coming in with a lot of experience, hopefully he'll come in and tear it up just as much as Batshuayi is, and so now we've got two strikers who can cut it. That's a great situation. But yeah, I love Batshuayi's effort. I love what he's doing out there, continually working hard, continually working for the team as well. He does take a couple shots, and he is selfish at times, but he's a striker. He's probably going to be. But I mean, he still finds a way to assist as well. He finds some good passes too. So I just think overall he's definitely a player that is stepping up and showing what he's capable of, and I love it for him. The three players that came in for him, Boga came in the first half for Pedro because of that collision with Ospina. Did really well in my opinion. Just for a player who's kind of been on the loan brigade for I think the past 3 or 4 years now. He came in and he's done very well the first two games. I mean, I saw a couple highlights in the Fulham game. He looked really good. Tonight looked really good. Just really did a good job of putting pressure on the back line. Dribbling at them with pace. He looks fearless. He looks like he's ready to take them on. I love it whenever a younger player does that. I love it whenever they come into a team full of confidence because it gets me excited. It gets me excited to see what he's capable of. But yeah, overall, just when he came in, while Pedro was doing okay up until that point, when Boga came in, there was so much more speed to it whenever we were going forward and attacking. Whereas, like I said, with Pedro, he's more of a passing, quick touch player. Boga came in and looked a lot more like Willian, and he was driving forward. He was going forward with speed and looking to counter on him, and it was brilliant to watch. So hopefully he can continue to grow and show a lot more quality in preseason, and possibly get himself on the team sheet because what do we have right now? We have Willian, Pedro, and Hazard. Hazard's injured. Pedro may or may not be injured after this. We need somebody else to step up. We haven't bought anybody in the transfer window, so hopefully this is Boga's chance to step up and show what he can do. Lewis Baker came on for Willian, and in my opinion, disappointed. He did have a couple moments where it was like, okay, that looked good, okay, that was a good turn, that was a good pass. But too many moments where I just saw him standing. And at this level, whenever you're a young player and you're trying to break into the first team and you're standing out there, and this is one of my biggest problems with Loftus-Cheek, the moments he's had last season in preseason and even 2 years ago preseason, there are too many moments where I saw him just standing around and it didn't look like he wanted to put forth the effort at times unless it benefited him. That's kind of what I saw from Baker tonight. I saw a few moments where I'm just watching him stand as the ball's being passed right next to him. I'm like, why don't you try to step to it? Why don't you put pressure on that guy so they don't have a free pass to the middle of the field? Because, I mean, at that point, we pushed him over to this side, and then you're standing here you should be cutting off this pass into the center, but then you don't. Now they pass it to the center. Now everybody has to shift to the other side of the field. And it's all your fault because you didn't step to it. So, I don't know. I was really disappointed with his effort off the ball. I think he didn't really show much. He didn't really work hard off the ball. And for a youth player who's trying to break into the first team, because, I mean, he did well at, I think it was the U19 Euros this year. If you want to break into the first team, you've got to show more effort than that. You've got to do more than that. So, yeah, I was disappointed with him. And then Remy up top came on for Batshuayi. He got himself a goal, I think, off a penalty against Fulham. Tonight came on, had a few moments where it's just like, oh, good turn, good dribble. Then had a couple moments where I'm like, you really should have scored there. So, yeah, I don't know, he's kind of been on the fringe with Murata coming in. He's probably moving even further down the pecking order. Um, yeah, I don't see him really getting much time this season. Most likely, he's either going to be sold if a team wants him, or he's going to leave at the end of his contract, which I'm assuming is probably this year. But I don't know, watching him play, he just doesn't look like he has the quality that we need out there. So, uh, disappointing, but what can you do? He was not one of Conte's signings. He's just working with what he has. But that's about it that's everybody for individuals. I realize this took a long time, but this is probably going to be most of the preseason games because there are a lot of players to talk about, a lot of things to go through as far as building up to the season, things to focus on going into the season. Um, one of the last things I want to talk about though going into the next game is what to expect. Going into a Bayern Munich game and then going into an Inter Milan game. You would think of the two, put out your strong team against Bayern and then put out your weak team against Inter. I don't know what to expect, to be honest. I would like to see him mix and match some of the players, get some of the players who are not in the first team picture right now, put them with players that are in the first team, show us what they are capable of, show us how they compare to those first team players. I'd love to see some of the defenders mixed together. I'd love to see, how does Pasalic look next to Fabregas or next to Conte. Maybe try out couple different formations just in case, what if we need a goal? Well, let's go with a 5-3-2. So now we have two strikers up there. Well, what if we need to defend? Well, let's go with a 5-4-1 maybe. I don't know. But I'd like to see him try to really work it around, try to find different options for different games, just because that's what preseason's for. So we've seen kind of the similar theme for the first two games against Fulham and against Arsenal. Same first lineup, pretty much the same subs coming in. So I'd like to see some changes going into the Bayern Munich game. But overall, I'm really excited from what I've seen so far. I'd love to see more. Looking forward to see what else these guys can show us, because building up to the season, I'm getting really excited to compete in the league and the Champions League and then the domestic tournaments as well. I mean, last season it was like, okay, we have the league and that's it. There's nothing else to look forward to aside from, FA Cup maybe. This season, there's so much to look forward to. We're looking sharp. We're looking ready for the season to start as well. So I'm excited. Hopefully you guys are too. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this game? Who's your man of the match? What do you want to see at the next game? Let me know. We can talk about, discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews. I'll see you guys in the next game. Peace out.